And we are live, everyone. Awesome. So it's so good to see you both. We're really excited you both could make it.
Thank
Um,
you.
I'm gonna give it over to Sean to start us off. Just gonna jump right into
Yeah.
it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get into it. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the first ever team-led candidate forum for North Carolina General Assembly race. My name is Sean Hung, and I'm the North Carolina State Policy Director for the American Youth Association, also known as AYA. AYA is a 501c3 nonprofit youth-led organization dedicated to elevating youth voices in national and state legislatures. We firmly believe in nonpartisan, evidence-based policymaking and are committed to training the next generation of civic leaders. Moderating this evening alongside me is Chloe Hercula, who serves as the local policy director for the coastal region of our great state.
And we're thrilled to be joined by the candidates running for State House District 14, Democratic candidate Ms. Carmen Spicer, and Republican candidate Mr. Wyatt Gable. On behalf of the American Youth Association and all of our local county youth, thank you both for being here. We would like to remind candidates and audience that this forum is being recorded for future reference. And as a reminder, the views expressed in this forum are those of the candidates, not the American Youth Association. The association does not support or oppose any political party or candidate for office.
Yeah. In order to ensure productive discussion, we have established the following guidelines for this forum, which the candidates have received ahead of time. You will both receive 2 minutes for an opening statement, 2 minutes for a closing statement, and 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer each question. The timer will be displayed on the screen, and when your time is up, we ask that you complete your sentence. Each candidate is allowed 2 rebuttals for this forum, which will be limited to 30 seconds. We ask you utilize the Zoom raise hand function if you would like to extend a rebuttal. Once the other party has concluded the answer, we'll recognize you to speak. Rebuttals cannot be used to extend one's own time to answer a question.
So we're just going to jump right into it. Again, if you would like to extend a rebuttal, that you utilize the raise hand function. And we're just going to jump right into it. So would either of you like to go first? We'll leave it up to the candidates.
May I go first?
Of course.
Absolutely.
So Ms.
Thank
Spicer, you
you.
will open our introductions, and then we'll be followed in answering questions by alternating order. So as a candidate for House District 14, just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're passionate about representing this district.
Well, good evening. I'd like to thank you so much for the invite to participate in this forum this evening. And kudos to what your organization is doing. My name is Carmen Spicer, and I'm your next representative for the North Carolina House of Representatives District 14. As the first African American in Onslow County to integrate the public schools in Onslow County, I've always been an advocate for our community for decades. I've dedicated my life to standing up for justice and equality. I know firsthand the challenges many in our community face, whether it's accessing affordable house, healthcare, healthcare, or school loans. So, grants. So I decided to run for House of Representative because I felt that I needed to be able to give something back to our community. I felt that I would be a great servant to be able to go across the aisle to get things done and missions accomplished. So I'll stop right there. Thank you so much.
Awesome. And we are going to give you guys a little grace. It's a digital forum. So with time, we have a built-in timer that you guys should be able to see. But for our opening statements, we're just going to give it a little bit of grace so we can get familiarized with the platform. But thank you so much. And
Thank you
Mr.
so
Gable,
much.
we'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you all for having this. This is definitely a unique area that we've been able to expand to, a little bit different from all the forums I've done for the primary or for our first one we had a couple weeks ago. So for most of y'all, I'd assume that don't know me, my name is Wyatt Gable. I'm the Republican nominee for the state house here. I won the primary back in March. I beat the 20-year seat holder in the Republican primary. So I kind of got into politics and late in could say mostly late high school, but high school as a whole. During my sophomore year, we had Hurricane Florence come through and destroy our school. I saw how long and slow it took the wheels of government to turn and get the school rebuilt and reopened. So that was my first taste. Then the end of my junior year and my senior year and my freshman year of college, I saw the COVID stuff going on. It felt like it was rules for thee, but not for me from the government. And I didn't think that was right. So I wanted to get more involved. I joined our Turning Point chapter at East Carolina, which is a conservative, nonprofit, nonpartisan group. I've been the president for 2 years. I worked on a U.S. Senate campaign, which we were able to win in 2022. Then I just kind of wanted to make a bigger difference in my community. I believe in serving people, and I think this is the best way I can do it. And I look forward to representing the 14th district come January.
So thank you both so much. We're going to move right into the questions portion, and Sean, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, again, just like Chloe said, thank you both for being here, and thank you both for an awesome introduction. Our first question is that many young people today are concerned about finding high-paying jobs after graduation. What policies would you propose to ensure that fair wages and economic stability will be ensured for recent graduates? Mr. Gable, if you could go first.
Yeah, I think a big thing in our state, especially, is having a economic climate that is friendly to new workers and workers as a whole. We've done that here in the state of North Carolina. We have low taxes. We have very low regulations on jobs and businesses to come here. We are the #1 state for business in the country with our new regulation and tax cuts. All of this adds up to a friendly climate for younger people, but anybody, to start a family, to get your first job and have a high wage, because the company's not having to pay taxes and neither are you. So that's just more money in your pocket. And we need to continue that in the General Assembly. As for here in Onslow County in District 14, I believe in trying to attract more business here. I'd like to use my connections at East Carolina to bring more ECU facilities here, whether that might be healthcare options or a coastal research facility, because we have plenty of skilled workers from the base and the people that live here because of the base. And if we can have outside contracting, whether that's private or state funded jobs, then I think that's a big thing we need to bring here to the 14th district.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much
I've
for your
been told
answer.
our timer integration has not been on screen, but it should be now. But Ms. Spicer, the same question to you.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for the question. One of the things that I thought about that, and I realized that one thing has to be done. We have to raise the minimum wage. The minimum wage right now is $7.25 per hour. So North Carolina is a little behind times in reference to salary. So by raising the wages and introducing the bill to raise the wages, I believe that would attract young people to particularly stay in North Carolina, and more importantly, stay in our county. My experience by working in the federal government before, I worked with the Small Business Administrations, and I worked with Department of Commerce, and also the Veterans Administration. So I do understand the importance of wages increase, because when wages increase, then you're able to afford to do other things. You're able to afford maybe to even leave your parents' home and get your own place. You're able to afford affordable health care and, of course, housing. So it's time. I know there are employers that are paying above the minimum wage, but a lot of employees are sticking to $7.25 per hour. And really, not a lot can be done with that. So, as your representative, as your legislator, I would definitely work hard to ensure that the wages, minimum wage, would definitely be increased. Thank you so much. I can't see the time in, so I'm not sure.
I saw it. It's top right corner.
In the event that you can't see the timer, I'll ask Sean. He'll just hold up a piece of paper on his screen.
Okay, thank you so much.
We'll give you a little 10-second warning. I apologize for that.
That's okay, no problem.
But thank you both so much. We'll move on to our next question.
Sure.
In the same vein, youth issues. With concerns over both general crime and school violence rising, what specific steps do you plan to take to make schools safer, to ensure that schools can focus on learning without fear? And that is Ms. Spicer, I believe, first.
Yes, that's a very valid question. What can we do? First of all, we realize there is a mental health crisis. And I think we have to be able to address that mental health crisis. I think it's very shameful. It's really a disgrace when students aren't able to actually go to school to get their education without having some form of fear. So that is one thing that has to be done. I know there are SRO officers in school, but we have to get to the basis, the foundation, what is causing the problem. So I do believe we have to get to our mental health issues with that. That is the beginning of how we resolve this problem. I know now we do have security in school. And then we have to be able to say, when you see something, say something. If you see something in your school that's not right, then I think you should say something. Also, we have to get rid of these certain weapons, weapons that do not belong among anyone. I mean, these XR-14s, these weapons are too large, too big, and they're meant to be able to harm and kill people. So that's what we have to do. We have to just stay focused. I think we have to be able to even focus on our cyber security. That's very important. How do you do that? You do that by auditing the system to make sure that things that are done on the computer, it can be actually monitored.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so
Thank you
much
so
for the
much.
question. Thank you.
Mr. Gable, if you could answer the same.
Yeah, just to respond to what she said, over 90% of shootings, whether it's in a school or anywhere, happen in gun-free zones. So weapons are not the problem. It's people that are deranged and have a mental health issue themselves, or they just like hurting other people. People are the problem, not guns. And in terms of protecting our school system, I believe we have to build on things that already work, like the SRO program. When I was in high school, we had a great SRO. We had very few problems because A, he was able to build a relationship with the students, so that was able to mitigate all the problems that might come about because you have that relationship. Then on top of that, having him there if something did come up, it was a big plus to have that extra line of security. But then on top of that, something our school system has already done is we have metal detectors that will be put in place at our schools. And someone made a good point was if for us,
Mr. Gable, thank you so much. As that was a direct response to Ms. Spicer, that was 30 seconds. Am I correct, Chloe? My timer is also slow for some reason. Chloe, you're muted. Chloe, your mic isn't on.
Oh, I apologize, my mic was muted, but rebuttals we have are limited to 30 seconds. But when we do apologize, our timer integration seems to be giving us a little trouble here, but we'll just hold up when there's 10 seconds. We apologize.
well, boy, that wasn't my rebuttal though. That was my first time answering the question.
Okay, well, in that case, we're gonna give you the rest of it to finish your thought.
So, but as I was saying, so someone raised a good point. For any government body, whether it's at the General Assembly, whether it's the governor, the lieutenant governor, we all have protection. Why are we any better or any different than students at schools? They should deserve the same protection if they need it. And that's kind of the point I was trying to make is if we have those metal detectors and those SOR officers at the school, those are things we need to build on because they clearly work. And then on top of that, having those relationships like the SRO has are such crucial pieces of just having a community in your school system. I think that's something that we have to improve on and make sure every school in North Carolina gets that resource.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Gable, and apologies. I That first sentence I misunderstood. I thought it was a rebuttal. With that, let's move on to our third question. On the topic of substance abuse, particularly opioids among young people, is a growing issue in our state, and especially in Onslow County. What are your plans to address the opioid epidemic and its impact on Onslow County? Mr. Gable, if you could take your 1 minute, 30 seconds.
I think a great start would be the federal government closing the southern border. We have unaccounted for and huge amounts of fentanyl and other drugs pouring in across our southern border. So that's a huge start. But for here in Onslow County and North Carolina, I think increasing the punishment for people that distribute those drugs, that's a huge one, because then you're going to help diminish the want to sell, or if they do sell drugs and they are found guilty, then they are going to go to prison for longer and they will be less likely to distribute again in the future. Another thing I've done is I had a conversation with our county sheriff a couple months ago. So a couple of things that we would like to do is increase the communication that goes on between agencies, whether it's the city of Jacksonville and Swansboro Police Department, the Onslow County Sheriff's Department, the State Bureau of Investigation, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, because that is really the key, is getting that transparency and that communication between all levels of law enforcement so they all know what's going on. That was a big thing that he asked for. And then another thing is the amount of time and money it takes to test drugs, whether it's drugs as in someone's system or drugs that have been confiscated and need to be tested to tell if they are what type of substance it might be. So the county sheriff's department spends their own money to test these things, and it's about $250 per. So trying to get a lab here in Onslow County would be the key to helping save money and make it more efficient to test.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for that.
And Ms. Spicer, the same question.
Absolutely. How do we address the substance abuse and opioids? And I'm going to go back because everything starts from a beginning. There is a problem, and it has to do with the mental illness again. So you have to treat the problem. How do you do that? By having facilities available. Whether the drugs are fentanyl this is not something new that's coming into our country. We just have to have the people in place to let people know this is not for you. I mean, at one time, they had signs that said, I think, drug-free zones. So that has to be, I think, propagated a lot, pretty much letting people know drugs is not the answer. And so if they do happen to get on drugs, then what do you do? Do we have the facilities here to assist them, to help them get off of drugs and also to stay off of drugs? I had met with the North Carolina Police Benevolent Association, the sheriff, and the city sheriff also, and they have said the same thing. What can they do to help this problem? It's a serious problem, and it's not only in North Carolina or Onslow County, but it's a worldwide problem. But there again, we got to get people that's on these drugs the proper help that they need by giving them funding to be able to help them.
Thank you, Ms. Spicer.
Sure.
Yeah, there seems to be a delay in our timer, but both me and Chloe will be keeping one off the screen, and I'll be raising my placard according to that. Moving on to the next question. Onslow County has a strong veteran presence, and many young people consider joining the military. What initiatives would you propose to support military members and veterans, including incentives to attract young people to serve? Ms. Spicer, if you could take that one.
Absolutely. Thank you again for the question. Yes, we're very blessed we're right here where Camp Lejeune is, and I thank the veterans for their service. I had an opportunity, as I do a lot of times, with a one-on-one, and one thing that a veteran said to me just recently, it was a veteran that unfortunately he got out medically on a medical discharge, and he having some problems. But his issue is his doctor retired. Now he has a new doctor. To get an appointment, he's looking out about 8 or 9 months out to be able to get an appointment to address his needs. That doesn't really make sense. But however, we can do a little bit better with that. We can actually have a veterans hospital here. Why can't we? And why has it not been introduced? Not only have a veterans hospital here, but also a veterans home. I believe how you encourage or motivate or incentive as a incentive for young people to join the military or the Marine Corps is to let them know that they will have a fair shake at what they're doing, that they will be able to be treated properly while they're actively in service and also when they return home as a veteran or retired. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Spicer, for that answer. Mr. Gable, the same, if you could.
Yeah, so I agree with my opponent on the amount of time it takes. It takes far too long for someone who served our country to get their appointments and the medical help they need. So one of the things I'd like to do is use my connections at ECU to bring an ECU health center here. So that gives us an extra healthcare option as a whole for anybody, but I'd also like that a healthcare center to accept the VA insurance that is provided. So the simple way to look at it is you can either go to a VA healthcare hospital, or if you can go to a private provider that accepts VA insurance as a veteran, you can go there as well. So I'd like for that health center to have that. I'd like to have a veterans hospital here that's by the government, but unfortunately that's the federal government, and we obviously know how inefficient the federal government is. So trying to find state ways to get around that and provide health care, I think that's a good one. And then another thing I'd like to do is in terms of the veterans and people that are still in the military and the people that they bring here with them and their family, making sure we have job opportunities for them while their family members are here and for them when they leave, because we have so many skilled workers in the Marine Corps here, but they are forced to leave Onslow County because there aren't enough jobs here for them that fit their skill set. So making sure we have those opportunities for them is huge.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gable. With 18% of children in Onslow County living in poverty and 12% of the population affected overall, poverty has become a critical issue within our community. What are your plans to alleviate poverty, specifically through job creation and economic growth? Mr. Gable, this is you once again.
Yeah, so just kind of going off what I just said again, I'd like to bring more business here. We have a big problem when Walmart is our biggest employer. We need to bring more manufacturing jobs to the area. We need to focus on tourism in our area, like Swansboro and our other beaches, because that's so important to our economic development here. And then another thing is going back to home building and making sure people have a place to stay when they are moving here, because we have such a massive influx of population in Onslow County. I've talked with the Home Builders Association a decent amount. We've kind of discussed our plans on how to bring more here in terms of more development, and everyone's on board because there is a market for home building. And then with that, there's an influx of population. So there's going to be a massive boom of workers. So making sure we keep our business friendly climate here on North Carolina, which we have thanks to our Republican General Assembly, low taxes and low regulations. We have to continue that. And then in terms of bringing something here, we need more manufacturing jobs and more high skilled jobs that come to this district so everybody can make a good livable wage, and that will help pull everybody out of poverty.
Thank you so much. And Ms. Spicer, the same question.
Would you repeat the question, please? Thank you.
Of course. 18.1% of children and youth live in poverty in Onslow County, with 12% of the population being affected overall. Poverty has become a critical issue in our community. What are your plans to alleviate poverty, specifically through job creation or economic growth?
Yes, thank you again for the question. It's very shameful that we have poverty here in Onslow County. I personally can deal with that because the program that I had that I established at my home, 59 Kirk Street, I fed 18 children under my carport every day. I volunteer also at a food bank at my church. So on Thursdays and Fridays, they gave us extra food. So I made sure that when the kids got off the bus, they passed right by my home. I would have snacks there for them. It started out with 2, and then it ended up with 17. Then eventually they came out of my carport And I not only fed them, I helped them with their schoolwork and taught them a little tiny bit of French. But that's the key. How do we get rid of this poverty? One way of getting rid of this or eliminating it is by having wages increase because everything is based on money. When you have the needs that you have supplied to you, then other things make it a little bit easier. You're able to feed your children. You're able to feed your family. You're able to have some amenities in your home that make you very happy.
Thank you
But
so
I
much.
do, I do believe,
That
am
is
I out
that
of
is,
town?
but thank you so much.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see the
No,
little
no, of
card.
course.
Thank you.
Our next question. Do you believe that youth should be tried as adults in the criminal justice system? And what actions would you take to reduce the number of children in the juvenile system at large? Ms. Spicer, this is you once again.
Okay, the question is, you tried as adults, and the second part was?
I can repeat it. Do you believe that youth should be tried as adults in our criminal justice system? And what actions would you take to reduce the number of children in the juvenile system at large?
I don't believe that youth should be tried as adults. I mean, I know there's some heinous crimes, and the crimes that they commit, it's like being an adult, but I know they aren't adults. So their mind sometimes is just not thinking as an adult. So I don't believe that should be happening. And the actions to reduce crime, is that was the second part of the question, Chloe? Yes. It starts at home. It starts right at home. I think parents have to be parents to their children, but I do also think the public schools for being parents when they can't be, when the parents can't be a parent to to their children. We can reduce this crime, I believe, by having more active activities for youth to do, more internships, maybe something um, at the community college, something to keep them busy and make them feel like they're involved. I do enjoy now what's Onslow County have. I think they have a court, like a junior court. That I think that's very good because that is a preventive I think, entity that will prevent maybe some crimes, at least give them an opportunity to think about
Thank
it.
you so
Thank you
much.
so much.
And Mr. Gable, the same question.
Yeah, I think it kind of depends. I can't really give an answer. Just that's a broad one, as in, I think certain things, if it's something small, then and no. I mean, if you get a speeding ticket, or if something not serious, I don't really think you need to be tried as adult for that. But if you're 17 and you commit a murder, then I mean that one's kind of don't really have an issue because you're committing such a heinous crime. And then in terms of how to prevent it, I think you got to keep the family unit together because when both parents are in the child's life, then the likelihood that that child goes on to commit crimes becomes significantly lower. So I think making sure families stay together is incredibly important. And then on top of that, trying to make sure students are involved with things at school, whether that's playing sports, getting involved in clubs and extracurricular activities, because that's so important to building things in terms of relationships with people, but then also learning things. You learn how to work as a team. You learn how to realize that sometimes you have to do things yourself, but then again, going back to sports, you have to play by a set of rules. And I think that's so important for young people nowadays is to get out and socialize with people and get involved with activities so they don't go down the wrong path.
Thank you so much to you both for those answers. Our next question will be moving into healthcare. With 16% of adults in Onslow County reporting being in fair or poor health, healthcare and the cost of prescriptions are major concerns for many in our community. How do you propose addressing the healthcare affordability? Mr. Gable, this is you first.
Yeah, I'll go back to what I said earlier about my ECU Health Center idea. So if we bring one of those here, because I have plenty of ties to East Carolina, I've talked with the regional project director of East Carolina about this. So that would bring is another health center. So we have more healthcare options. So that makes the market more competitive. So capitalism, you get the best healthcare you can get for the lowest price. So it gives us an extra option. And then on terms, again, of veterans, it gives them another option for their healthcare. So I think bringing those things here is crucial for that. And then another part would be making sure in school students are taught and understand healthcare, and another one, promoting physical education. We have gotten away from that as a society because when participation rates in physical activity go down, depression, substance abuse, and obesity all go up. So making sure students have that in their life to help, even if that's the only thing they get physical activity wise, that will help them set up for a healthy lifestyle in the future. And then in terms of, again, trying to bring more resources, just making sure we have options for people here in Jacksonville and Onslow County because there's very few at this current moment.
Thank you. Ms. Spicer, the same question.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the question. I believe we have to be, excuse me, proactive with healthcare. So what causes a person to have a problem with their health? A lot of times it could come from stress. So we have to be proactive. If we're proactive in our health care, then that's going to reduce more people with illness. That's going to reduce more people needing medication. Now, some are going to be on medication regardless. Now, what we can do is make sure that the health care, that insurance is affordable. Make sure that the prescriptions are affordable. Make sure that there are areas that people are able to eat healthy. Every household or some households maybe not have the affordability to eat the healthy foods that they should. Now, how can we do that? We can implement we can subsidize, which we have been doing through a lot of food banks, making sure that the families get their vegetables and fruits. Because if you've been to the stores lately, I don't know whether you all go, things are a little expensive. So we have to be proactive. Thank you so much for the question.
Again, for our audience confused, our timer was around 5 seconds late. So that is why I raised the placard early.
I'm sorry, say that
Chloe, do you
again.
I had to raise the placard 5 seconds early due to a technical difficulty with Zoom for the audience members.
Okay, thank you.
Our next question, thank you both so much for your answers. Crime reduction is a major priority for many in Onslow County, specifically gun violence. What policies would you implement to ensure the safety of our community while balancing individual rights? And Ms. Spicer, this is you. You have the floor.
Absolutely. Yes, I would like to see crime reduce. And then we have to understand what causes crime. What kind of state of mind is a person in when they decide they want to maybe rob a bank or rob an individual? What's going on? There is something that is happening to them that's giving them the reason to feel like they should do that. So we have to do what we're doing. We have to be proactive. See something, say something. We have to be able to, with the gun violence, and that's a very serious issue. But we have to make sure that people have a background check. We have to make sure that we're intentionally knowing what type of guns are being purchased. Everybody that's buying guns, and I hear my opponent says, of course a person have a right to have a gun, and guns don't kill people, people do, but people pick up those guns to kill them. And it's been a lot of that going on around. It's been a lot of that going on in the schools, particularly. And we need to get to the root of this. How do we reduce crime? We reduce crime that make people accountable for their behavior. If you're accountable for
Thank
your
you so
behavior,
much.
it will slow down crime so a lot. Thank you so much.
Mr. Gable, the same question.
Yeah, so she just said the person picks up the gun and commits the crime. If you pick up a fork and eat and become overweight, are you going to blame yourself or are you going to blame the fork? You're going to blame yourself. You can't blame an inanimate object. We don't have regulations on people owning other things. Why should the government tell you what you can and cannot own? And then in terms of trying to reduce crime, going back to my conversation with the sheriff, increasing the amount of communication from the state level with other agencies and law enforcement so we all know what goes on. North Carolina is an incredibly high human traffic state because of our ports that we have and our great highway system. So all those things combined add to more crime. So making sure agencies understand what is happening in certain parts of the state, that they can communicate with each other so we can get more resources that just aren't the local level law enforcement that can help prevent these crimes. And then in terms of punishment, increasing certain punishment on certain crime, whether it's distribution of opioids like we talked about earlier, murder, all these things. Make it harder for people to commit these crimes so we can prevent more crime in the future.
Thank you both for those answers. Next up, we'll be moving into problems with rural areas. Rural areas face the challenge with young people leaving for more urban opportunities. What targeted incentives or programs would you propose to keep youth in the area after high school graduation, particularly in sectors like agriculture, small business, or public service? Mr. Gable, you have the floor.
Yeah, I think we need to focus on things like the community college system. So, because a lot of people don't want to go to college, and I completely understand that. College isn't for everybody. You go into a 4-year university. It's expensive, it's time consuming. You don't want to leave your home. I get that. So that's why we really need to focus on growing our community college system. We have a great one right here in Onslow County, and we need to promote things like welding, carpentry, agriculture, all things that are provided at the community college level where you can do a 2-year associate's degree or just take some individual classes to get a better understanding of these things. And that's so important because those manual labor jobs that don't require a 4-year college degree are what drive this country and make the world go round. Everybody can go get a college degree, but if you don't have people to build your roads, to build your houses, to grow your crops, your society is going to fall apart. And that's why I think making sure people understand there is a path other than college. You can go to community college or you can get an internship while you're still in high school. That way you're prepared for something in the real world that can really benefit your community, like learning how to weld, like learning auto repair and how to grow crops for your community. So that way you are successful and your community is successful.
Thank you so much. Ms. Spicer, the same.
Absolutely. One of the things I see that would be an incentive for young people that particularly live in rural areas is give them a reason to stay. People run away when they don't have a reason to stay. So if we're looking at particularly, say, agriculture, then there are maybe a incentives out there for young people to become farmers. If they're in the rural area, they're familiar with crops and growing things. Now there could be an incentive that will guarantee or give a grant or funding for people, young people to stay in the area and maybe become agriculture farmers or whatever. I agree with my opponent about the community college. We have a great community college here. We can also encourage young people there that's getting out of school to go to the community college. And then we can also give them some type of deferment, some type of incentive. And even better, let's take it a little bit step further as your legislator. Why can't we just offer the students, community college and let them go free? Now that would be a great incentive for the students here that are graduating or have graduated in Onslow County to stay in the county because they're able to go to school free. Thank you so much.
And thank you so much. Many young people today, particularly youth in rural. Oh, Mr. Gable.
Yeah, can I respond?
Of course.
Yeah, my big question is where are we going to get this money from? Giving free college, you can't do that because that would burden other taxpayers. How is it fair for me? I go to East Carolina. I chose to go to school. Why would it be fair for me to tell someone else that didn't go to school, oh, you have to pay for my school? That's not right. Paying off for people's school is not the way to go. All that's going to do is increase the tax burden on the population. And in turn, that's going to cause our community to struggle even more. So giving out free money is not going to help us at all.
Thank you. We'll move on to our next question. Many young people today, particularly youth in rural communities, find themselves unable to connect with their elected officials. What actions would you take to boost youth civic engagement? And I believe that is Ms. Spicer.
Okay, great. I'm glad you asked that question because I have done it. What I did with these 17 youths that was under my carport, 59 Kirk Street, where I live, born and raised right there. What we did was I took them when it was time for, I wasn't running for office, but during the time of election last couple years ago, I actually took them to the Board of Elections. I allowed them to see what it was, explain what the Board of Elections duties were, and if when they decide to become a candidate, a run for office, this is where they would go. And this is also the place where you go to cast your vote. That was a great impact on them. As my civic duty, I also took these 17 children or so to the city council meeting. I let them be able to feel and touch a representative that's representing actually their community and their wards, to see the function of a city council or I'll see the function of a mayor or city manager. So that way they were able to engage one-on-one or as a group to see exactly what civic and history and all that was government was actually coming together. So I think you have to constantly continue to keep engaged with
So
these
thank you
young
so
people
much.
and take them out. So I actually do let them do a hands-on.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Spicer. And Mr. Gable, the same question.
Yeah, so I've run our Turning Point chapter at East Carolina for 2 years. I've grown the chapter to over 1,000 members that we got signed up. So I've been able to engage with thousands of students on a college campus and get them involved with politics, whether it's understanding other people's ideas and talking about policy ideas, whether I might agree or disagree with someone, we've been able to do that. We've been able to register hundreds of people to vote. So that's kind of my experience with it, which I've been able to be very successful at. And then in the future, what I'd like to do is I'd like to have multiple town halls a year once I'm elected so that people from any age can come and understand what's going on with the government. And that way we can stay in touch because that's the most important thing. Then another thing is who is going to understand younger people issues right now? I understand the struggle of trying to pay for an apartment or buy your first home, going to the grocery store and the gas station and seeing prices astronomically high. I understand all of these issues that younger people are facing because I am one of you. And then in terms of for an older demographic, again, I know what it's like to try and go buy groceries. It's way too high right now. I understand what it's like when someone's job, you lose your job because of a federal government policy that shuts down your job here in Onslow County and it displaces 60 people. I understand all these issues for everybody, and I feel like I have the best experience of that to help our younger generation and everyone as a whole and be there for them to listen to their issues.
Thank you, Mr. Gable, and thank you, Ms. Spicer, for those answers.
Thank you.
Next up, our question is, if elected to our state house, apologies, what will be your top 3 legislative priorities? Mr. Gable, you have the floor.
For me, my biggest thing is making a mandatory home economics and life skills class in our public schools. So how to write taxes, how to do your taxes, how to write a check, how to understand interest rates, because those things are crucial life skills that no matter who you are, you will use and you will need. So making that a mandatory class in North Carolina. That's number one. Number two, I think bringing more healthcare options, like I said, about an ECU health center to the district. So our veterans have more healthcare options and our people as a whole have more healthcare options. Another one would be making physical education more prominent in our public education schools, because those participation rates have gone down, whether it's sports or participation in gym class. So making sure we have a program and ways to continue to push that and grow it for students in our society.
Ms. Spicer, the same question.
Absolutely. Well, I tell you, top three, that's kind of tough, but I'm gonna get a stab at this. Number one, I would do is actually bring good jobs and living wages to our county. Because with good jobs and living wages, then people have a tendency to want to stay. Why move when you have all your amenities that you need here? So that is something that has to be done. When you have a good job and you have a good salary, then you're able to take care of your health care. You're able to make sure that you get to the right position, that you're able to afford the right medication. And trust me, this can happen with all ages. So it's not, not just sometime with older people. So, we want to make sure that we have affordable health care. And then, of course, rebuilding our infrastructure. We've got to have infrastructure and then bringing manufacturers in the area here. But when manufacturers come in the area, then, of course, they can also hire within our community. And of course, number three, which is probably one of my top ones, is a reproductive freedom for women. Women have a right to make a choice over their own bodies, and the federal government and any other party has
Thank you so
no
much.
right to go in that woman's bedroom for herself. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. As we close out, we have a few more just very general questions. Do you believe in bipartisan action? If so, how do you plan to work across party lines to advance legislation in the General Assembly? And Ms. Spicer, this is you again.
Oh, I absolutely believe in bipartisan action. I don't think you can get anything accomplished without going across the aisle. But you have to, I mean, because I have the experience. Remember, I've been in federal government, so I understand. I understand procurement. I understanding getting the job done. And sometimes it doesn't necessarily mean someone with just my background or my particular party, but I do believe we have to go across the aisle, because when we look at it, we have the same issue. When you look at my opponent's platform, might be a little different, but most of it is the same issue. So we all have the same issue, and how we want to do what we need to do. What does it take to get it done? And it takes everybody in the room to get the job done. Once we get everybody on board, then we find out that we can get things done a lot better. And we're not bickering, and we're not calling names, and we're not falsely accusing people of things, but we are focusing on our constituents. Because as a legislator, that's my job, is to make sure that my constituents' voice is being heard. It doesn't, the people elected me to make sure, and I represent all people. Thank you so much.
And Mr. Gable, the same question.
Yes, I believe and support bipartisan action as long as everything makes sense. Going back to me being the Turning Point president, we've had plenty of events where it's been open discussion with people that have a different viewpoint of me. I may not agree with them, but I understand the point that they're making and where they're coming from, and that's so important, and as to being able to understand each other and get things done. Because once people stop talking, nothing gets done. You have civil wars break out like we've had in our past because two sides just didn't agree and they stopped talking to each other. So that's why you have to have those constant discussions. So I totally believe in all of those things. And then for me, I don't care if you're a Republican, Democrat, independent, libertarian, whatever you might be. If you're one of my constituents, I'll listen to you and have your back if you'd like to talk with me.
Thank you both for those responses. This will be the last question before our closing statements. What are the main points that you want your voters to remember about you and your candidacy? Mr. Gable, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I got into this because I remember how it felt for no one to care about you and what was going on. During high school and the first part of college, it just felt like the government was steamrolling everyone's rights because of one governor in our state without approval of the legislature, steamrolling everyone's rights, whether it was making people mandatory to get vaccines, staying home, shutting down businesses. I saw all of this and I felt this isn't right. This isn't the American way. So I wanted to get in to make sure that that never happens again and that you live your life the way that you want to, and that I believe in total freedom for you. And again, it's just going back to what I said in the opening statement. I believe in helping people and I want to do something fulfilling in life where I know I can help people, and this is the best way I can do that.
Thank you. And Ms. Spicer, you as well.
Would you repeat the question one more time? I just want to make sure I have it. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Uh-huh.
What are the main points you want voters to remember about you and your candidacy?
Absolutely. The main point I would want the voters to remember to know about me and my candidacy, that I am a person who cares about the people. That's the reputation that I have. I have a commitment to serve. And then as a trailblazer, and that's what I am. I integrated the schools here in Onslow County. I was the first African American to integrate the schools in the public schools for Onslow County. So that took a big step, but it was a good step for me as well because it taught me that I'm able to get along with everyone, and we all were there on the same mission, trying to get the same thing accomplished, which was our education. So you have to have someone that is bold enough, that's not impacted by any particular pack group, to influence them, to go, therefore, to serve the people. Serving the people is very crucial because when we all work together on one accord, we get a lot accomplished. But when we are bickering and going different ways, then there's nothing to be accomplished. So I am a trailblazer and known as a trailblazer. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to you both. Before we move to closing statements, I want to take a moment to thank you both for being here tonight. Youth issues are often overlooked in our politics, but your participation in this forum is crucial in amplifying their importance. We appreciate your commitment to Onslow County, District 14, and all of the youth in North Carolina. We'll end off today with our closing statements with Mr. Gable going first. Mr. Gable, you have 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you all for setting this up. Definitely a unique experience. I think this went well, so thank you again for setting that up. I just want to say to everybody, I humbly ask for your vote if you're in Onslow County, and if you're not, if you'd ever like to talk with me or you have an issue, please bring it up to me. My email is info@electwyattgable. All my social medias are Gable for NC, and my website is electwyattgable.com. I've got into this a long time ago. I've been running for over a year now. I was able to defeat the 20-year incumbent in the primary because of hard work and good ideas that people appreciated. I didn't win my primary because I just spent exuberant amounts of money. I went around and I knocked on a lot of doors. I made a lot of phone calls because I believe in hard work and I believe in representing you. I don't think spending money is the answer to it like most people do. They just throw money at the problem and hope people vote for them. I believe in trying to earn people's votes, and that's what I did, and that's what I'm continuing to do right now. So if you'd like someone who has plans, ideas, the energy, and the stomach to get things done, then vote for me. And one last thing, tomorrow at Humphrey Farms in Hubert, North Carolina, I will be there doing storm relief supply drop. So if anyone would like to come and give donations or help out with that, we'd love to have you. So thank you again for doing this.
Thank you
I
again,
guess
Mr.
it's
Gable, for
my
being here.
time.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yes. I'd like to thank you all so very much. Your organization. I thank you so much for taking the time and want to have a say so and a know about our civic government and our rights to vote. What I would like to say also is this. I know that I am your representative. I know that I can get the job done because I have a track record. See, I do have a track record of getting things accomplished. As an owner of a real estate company, I understand what it takes to work together. It takes a team to get things accomplished. And I do appreciate visions of people maybe have not of persons that have maybe not have had the experience that I've had. But I do thank you for your vision. But it takes a vision. You write it down, you have a vision, and then someone has to implement it. I'm the one that can implement it, can do it respectfully without calling names. I'm not known for that, and getting the things that is good for our community, our infrastructure. So if you want experience, then I say vote for me. If you want to get the job done, I say vote for Carmen Spicer. I am a native of Onslow County. I've lived at 59 Kirsty, born and raised right there. So I'm the one that the people want. They want a person that they can trust, that's not influenced by any particular pack group, where they will tell that candidate or that representative what to do, what to say. I'm the one that you should vote. It's the time and it's the place
Thank you so
because
much, Ms. Spicer.
leadership matters. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we'd like to thank both of you again for your participation. This forum is recorded and will be posted publicly for future reference. We'd also like to remind our viewers that absentee ballot request forms are available at the Onslow County Board of Elections website, as well as the dates, times, and locations for early voting. Election day is November 5th. It is 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. at your local precinct. And on behalf of the American Youth Association, thank you for joining us for our District 14 Candidate Forum and the first ever entirely teen-led North Carolina General Assembly Candidate Forum in history. And this concludes our programming.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you both for being